Welcome to the Real Estate Entrepreneurs Podcast.
Welcome to the Real Estate Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today I have my friend Mike Canicles from, man, where are you right now? You're like in a farm somewhere in the middle of Midwest, right?
Yeah, I woke up this morning and it was -10 at my
Negative
house.
10, but you're not dressed like you're -10, dude.
No, it's warm at least in my office here. I'm in Wisconsin, Southwest Wisconsin, just outside of Madison, Wisconsin.
All right. So who are you? Where are you originally from, Micah?
Born in wine country, just west of Portland, Oregon,
Okay.
and then bumped around there. My family bumped around. My dad was a truck driver. I'm one of 7 kids, and yeah, we moved a little bit around Portland Metro, and then ultimately I kind of grew up until I was 13 and just outside of Boise, Idaho.
Yeah.
And
How
again,
far is that from Portland? Is like they're not that far, right? Because they're like neighbor states, correct?
yeah. They touch. I think it's a 8-hour drive, 6-hour
That's still
drive.
far.
I don't know. Yeah, I did it a lot when I was a kid because I have relatives in both places. But yeah, still a hike. But yeah, then 13, I transplanted again. My dad was still a truck driver, and we moved to Wisconsin, so just outside of Madison. And I've tried to leave like 4 times, and I just keep on coming back. It's like the boomerang state, man.
Why
Um,
why do you think you keep getting pulled back?
I mean, now it's different. I mean, the people here are pleasant. That is a significant factor. Like just genuinely good people that like you're not dealing with a bunch of meth heads or like that happens, but just like they're solid, normal people that in general care about the people who are next to them. I think that's the biggest factor. Now it's different. My kids are, teenagers and stuff like that. I would probably leave to somewhere warmer, but they have all their friends here. They have their life here that they built over the last, 13, 18 years. And so it's harder
Right.
to just pick up and go.
Right. And now your dad being a truck driver, so you grew up very rich, right? Um,
Oh yeah, bro. 7 kids on a truck driver's salary. Uh, yeah, we had it
well,
all.
hey, don't get me wrong. Truck drivers make good money. I
They
mean,
do. Yeah.
but they're gone all the time.
Yeah. He had a good route actually for a family man. And that's why we ended up moving. But he found a gig where he could drive just a turnaround route. So he'd go from in Idaho, it's from Boise to like almost Coeur d'Alene and back in a night. So he's gone for 12 hours, 8 hours, and then he's back home. And he would just do that. And then he found a similar gig when we moved to Wisconsin. You drive from Portage here, which is just north of Madison, up to the Twin Cities, which is 4 hours away and back. And so he's always home, but he would do that run like 6 times a week. So, when he was off, he was sleeping, and he made okay. I think he made, just over 100 grand,
Right.
but, and that was later. I'm sure he didn't make that all along, but, 7 kids, my mom stayed at home. Like, yeah, no, we didn't have anything, man. I get, the best gifts I got were usually, repurposed clothes for my older brothers and sisters.
The hand downs.
That's right.
So where you graduated high school where?
In Lodi, Wisconsin. So again, just outside of Madison.
Okay, and what did you do right after that?
I moved to Idaho for a little bit, and during, like before I graduated, I started working in restaurants. And so I went out there. I was working as a diesel mechanic, and then also at nights, in a restaurant, high-end restaurant. And I stuck with the restaurants for a long time. I basically did that until I transitioned fully into real estate, which
Really?
was, yeah.
Let's talk about restaurants, man, because you're dealing with people, right?
Yeah.
And were you serving? What was your job at the restaurant?
Yeah, I was front of the house. So serving, bartender is mostly where I ended up. I had a stint as, doing room service, which is very interesting. You see,
Really?
You see everything as delivering room. So I got to meet Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I got to meet the prostitute situation. It was all over the board. It was crazy. Um, if you're ever looking for cheap thrills, I would recommend that for a stint. If you
Oh
don't mind
wow! So
the
what
moving.
was the weirdest thing you saw when you were serving rooms that you can think of, and that you can talk on the show?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that popped in my mind is like, two guys, two girls in a room. I open, I'm delivering. I can't remember what it was like. Maybe a little bit of food and a bottle of wine or something. They're like, "No, you need to come in and hit this." That's what the guys are saying to me. I'm like, "No, bro." I'm like, I'm on the clock over here, and I was married at the
Right.
time. I was like, not interested. Uh, that was probably the weirdest thing I walked into. There, for some reason, all the strongest memories are all coming back sexual. So like Playboy was doing a like interview set. So I had this like standing order for all the people who were running all the pictures for Playboy. And so all the models are coming in and out of the room. My job was to get them food, get them all set up. And so that was just a weird thing to observe kind of the back end scene and be part of that picture. But then, just meeting celebrities and like, going, like I said, there weren't a crazy amount. I met the whole Rage Against the Machine staff, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a good amount of other like, just celebrities. And for the most part, it was cool because I'm walking into their space. I'm dropping food, and what struck me was the most is like they're just regular people.
They're
They're
regular
just like
people.
they got to eat too. They're like some people are assholes. Some people are assholes. Like that's how it is. But in general, most of them they're just chill, good people when it came right down to it.
So you were in the restaurant business for many years,
Yep.
and what was one of the, I guess, one of the takeaways from being there that served you later on in life as a real estate investor?
Yeah, I think just learning how to handle people. It can't. That was. It's. What's the best way to explain? Anyone's experience can be driven by how you respond to it. So, something bad is always going to happen, right? That's a reality that we all have to deal with. But the way you frame a solution, how you respond to the problem, and how you handle their emotions can you can pretty much turn anything around, at least salvage it to a place where you're not on your knees like please forgive me.
Right.
And so being in the service industry, like that was my bread and butter. That's what I did all day long. And so I got really good at handling people's emotions. I got really good at detecting what people wanted. I got really good at listening to what people wanted. And that very much played into, kind of what I do now in US Lead List with the, inheritance list that we sell and, that I personally market to is like, if, and a lot of marketers are saying this right now, I'm sure you experience it, but the same is true for real estate marketing. There's a trust recession. Like no one like you get someone on the line and they're instantly their guards up. They're trying to figure out how they can get you off the phone, or they can trying to figure out if you're actually a real person. Are you local? Whatever that is. And if you can handle all that well, you get way more opportunities than the next guy who's like fumbling around these things. They don't know how to discern what the problems are, what the challenges are. And so I think that really served me the most in the real estate, or from the restaurant industry into real estate.
Do you make good money in the restaurant business? That's all, because I did have a cousin that was a waiter in New York, and he I remember he passed away unfortunately. Now he was young when he died, but
I know.
he I remember when he went to visit me in Miami. I used to live in Miami back in the day, and man, he had money. Like I could tell he was like doing well, And I asked him, say, man, how much can you make in a night? Serving people in New York. And he's like, well, it depends on the restaurant, right? So if you're in a high end restaurant, which is where he was, he said I could make anywhere from, I don't know, $300 to even $600 on tips. Now, I don't know that that's a lot of money in New York because New York is a very expensive city. But base where you were, how was that? Like, how was the making a living as working in the restaurant industry, um, in comparison to the cost of living of where you were?
I mean, it wasn't ever enough for what I wanted.
Right.
But that said, where I ultimately landed and I worked for a long time was at this nice steakhouse connected to a Hilton. And, I probably made 70, 80K a year, which
Okay.
was, pretty good for a kid who never went to college.
Yeah, that's a decent salary.
Yep. But, at the same time, like I said, it wasn't enough. I had three kids before I was 26. And so my wife didn't work. I really wanted her to stay home, be with the kids. Like that was foundational for me. And so I was out there, hustling, doing whatever I could to, have us, basically get by, but not only get by, but that Charlie Munger phrase of like getting that first 100,000. Like that was always in my mind. It's like, all right, how do I put money away? How do I get money to work for me? And so it was always fighting that battle, which is a fine line of like, I've got this W-2. It's basically set income. I'm going to spend as little as possible so I have something to invest with. And so, yeah, it's, not bad, not great. Could have definitely been better. I was hungry for more.
How do you stumble into real estate?
When I was 18, as cliche as it is, my mom gave me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that's when I kind of started to divide, like, where how do money models work? How can I take something that I have now and get it to produce for me eventually? And so that's what seeded all of it. But I bought my farm that you mentioned before in '08, right after the kind of big
Right.
decline. Yeah, right after the crash, I got a good deal on it. I live on 100 acres. It's an amazing property. So that was the first thing I bought, and we got a really good deal on it. But it was still a liability. I had to pay every month for it. Like it wasn't making any money. It was just basically cost on my bottom line. And so in 2015, I finally pulled the trigger. I found a 4 unit. It was on market, and I paid $52,000 for it. Rents for I think just under $2,000. So I got a
Wow.
uh, yeah, 4% deal on the
It's a
market.
damn good deal.
Uh, and I was like, if I could do this again,
If I can do
like
this 20 times, man, I'm set.
exactly.
Like,
Well, but that was the problem. I didn't know, my head wasn't thinking big enough. I was just like, all right, how do I do this first one? And then the first one turned into a second one. So I found a 5 unit for 90,000. I bought it a month later. Again, on market, it made over $3,000. It was similar numbers. It cash
wow.
flowed, it paid the bills, it did all the things. And that's what started it all. And then from there, I was
This is
still
in
working.
2015, 16.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. 2015, both of those properties. And then from there, I just started educating myself, trying to figure out like how else can I make money? What are the other tools that I can do? Because rentals are fine, but they're a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
I was too cheap to pay a manager, so I manage these things at night. I'm renovating them on my days off. I'm basically just putting every single dollar I have back into these properties. And so, I learned about wholesaling. I would probably wholesale a couple deals a year. I would flip some. I did some wholetailing. And I just kind of started to put all the pieces together of like, different opportunities to make money in real estate. And that's, went on for several years. And it was like 2 years before I was replacing my income. But like
Okay.
for me, that wasn't enough. Like, I didn't want to step away from my job yet. And and at that point, I was actually working for Sub-Zero and Wolf, running their corporate restaurant, it was like the perfect gig. I got paid, great salary, and the work was minimal, and the work conditions were optimal, and it fit my life really well. So I didn't want to quit that fully, but I just kept on doing real estate deals. I had more free time then. I was getting paid more, and then in 2020. We're like in the middle of COVID. Shit was like, hadn't quite hit the fan, but it was close before they locked everything down. I hurt my back really bad. I was I was basically bedridden for like 6 months. Couldn't get out of bed. Bulging disc, sciatica. Like, I don't know if you've ever hurt your back before, but you
No,
know, I
I
don't wish it
broke
on
a couple of ribs, but I mean,
you.
it was the ribs. It wasn't my back, you know.
That's comparable though. That's like constant pain every time you
Oh, it
breathe, you
hurt.
cough. Oh,
It
bro.
hurt.
Well, when you deal with back pain though, it's like you're pulling the nerve in your spine, and it's like it courses through your whole body. So I remember like sitting in bed, and I'm just like not even doing anything, and I'm just like there are tears running down my face. It hurts so bad. And at that time too, I had another side hustle. I was doing construction, and I was splitting that, and then real estate, and this restaurant gig. And I was like, I got to get out of all of this. Like, I have to figure out a way where I can control my whole lifestyle. I just have to rewrite my financial paradigm. And so with that time, then I was sitting in bed. I
Were
figured
you
out,
reading? Were you reading some books or something along those lines that made you think that way, other than the pain you were feeling in your back?
no, it was really just the pain. It was the impetus of like I can't proceed like this anymore. Like, I at some point, right? Like all of us hit a kind of physiological decline, and
Yeah.
you can't proceed and do the same things you were. So you have to evolve, you have to adjust, you have to figure out how you can monetize your time in a different way. And I mean, I was reading, I was trying to think of like specific things, but like, I was always reading, business books, just like, or, just kind of, different ideologies around how do you leverage the resources that we have. Um, and really for me, it all boiled down to time. What are you controlling with your time? Who are you controlling with your time? And how do you leverage that to get the largest return? And so from there, I'm like, all right, I think, um, like I still want something that's going to give me income, revenue, but I want more control. And so the SBA and the federal government, they're giving out grants to buy businesses. So they would basically pay for your first 6 months of ownership, the loan amounts. And I was like, maybe I should just buy a business. Um, Now transition, it's already like built up. It's already running. I can just, I ideally find something that I could leverage further and make improvements and make a higher return. And so I vetted like 60, 80, 100 companies. I don't know, a lot of companies, because I was just sitting in bed. I had all the time in the world. And ultimately, I landed on the company that I bought, which is US Lead List. So there were two guys that ran the company for, I don't know, 15 years or something like that. And they were in their late 70s. They just wanted to be done, but it was already in real estate, marketing in real estate. Like, it kind of played to what I was already interested in, what I wanted to do more of. But moreover, like, these guys, they had a fully digital product, right? They basically sold data. But they ran everything on paper. They took the order by paper. They hand emailed everything. They did everything by hand. And I was like, if I could come in and just, add a little bit of technology to this, like, I'm sure I can automate 80% of these tasks that these guys are doing, and, take a person out of the company and not have to pay them. And then on top of that, secure this business grant that would, I don't know, it was probably like 60, 80 grand or something like that, that I would get in my pocket that I didn't have to pay out at all. So that's what I did. So September of 2020, I bought the company, took it over, and I've been running that ever since. That's why we met in a mastermind that we're in, and then continue to just do deals, do real estate deals, and then run this business, and basically ping them off of each other. So I actively market to all of Southwest Wisconsin with my list, and so I do deals locally. And then, I have clients all over the country, and I help them, and I, use their information. I use my own information and keep on refining our product and making it better.
what kind of marketing do you do?
So specifically, like our main flagship product, it's called the inheritance list. And so we line up if someone dies and, do they own real estate? Most people, when I combine those two things, their headspace goes to probate. And that's a natural conclusion, but that's not all of it. So there's like four main buckets that end up on our list. So it's pre-probate because typically we're getting the information before probate starts, so it's not public yet. The next is surviving spouses. After that, it's trusts, and then interfamily transfers before the death. So we're basically getting all of that information, putting it onto a list, and we set it up like a subscriber. You choose your counties that you want, and we send you the data on the 5th of every month, and you pay per record. And so, that's our main product. And so for me, my best marketing channel is direct mail. In general, they're older people. The digital approach doesn't quite work as well. I do cold email as well, and that does work pretty good. But cold calling, we do that as well, market to it. But it's mostly just to squeeze the lemon. I get a couple deals out of that a year. I used to do texting, and that is okay, but I've stopped since it's more of a gray hat tactic at this point, and there you can get your hands slapped. So
It still works though.
it does, absolutely, it still works.
To me, for me, texting is the best avenue. For a while, it died, but I think it died for almost 2 years. But now with all this AI and all these other things, and now that we learn how to bend the rules basically of 10 DLC and all of that, it's kind of like back.
Who do you use for your texting?
We're on
I
Go
know.
High.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, but there are good ones out there. You have Smarter Contact, you have Launch Control, you have, I mean, there's plenty of platforms that will, and there's some new ones, man, that like, for instance, I ran into the guys of AI Speakly, for instance. They're doing some amazing things with bots and stuff like that and texting.
Yeah.
Um, Even Steve Trang has something that it's working, and it goes more like a lead manager, and so there's plenty of things out there right now that technology is growing fast. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's very hard to catch up to. So, but me personally, I'm on Go High Level, and that's how we generate leads, and we call as well. So we do a combination of the two.
Okay.
My thing is, so I used to be a direct mail guy, okay, and I used to actually own a direct mail company. It used to be called Direct Mail Out,
Okay.
and then how I got into that was because I wanted to bypass the wholesalers basically as a buyer, and I
Yep.
said, well, I'm gonna go send some yellow letters, and I got into it, and we were using yellow letters out of California.
That was us, man.
Was that
Well, maybe so. Our sister company is Yellow Letter, but and Yellow Letters use like there's this. Maybe not. Maybe because we forgot to renew the domain, and
yeah?
that's when someone else came in. They bought it, and he started a separate company with Yellow Letters plural. So, but that was ours before he got it.
Okay, so you bought the company from Michael Quarles, I guess.
No, no. Okay, so yeah, no, that's the guy who took our domain and this was before me, but he renewed that domain
Got
after
it.
we let it lapse accidentally.
Got it. Okay, so I used to buy from Michael Quarles. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
Now the thing is, I will buy. Let's say I will put an order today. My phone wouldn't ring for another 3 weeks, and that would drive me nuts because I was like, man, what do I do in between? Like, I want my phone to
Right.
ring so I can go on appointments, right? And at the time, I was the acquisitions guy. Like, I would send a letter, a phone call would come in. Either Dennis, my old business partner, and I will get on the phone, and then we'll set up an appointment and we'll go lock it up basically, and then
Yeah.
we'll buy the property. We were the buyer, so we weren't wholesaling at all. And we came into an agreement that we needed to do our own because we wanted our response time to be quicker. So, like every, I guess, entrepreneur out there that wants to figure things out, we went and bought a bunch of printers, like like, but these big printers, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
we started learning how to create a yellow letter. It's not an easy task.
Yep.
I mean, it took us at least 3 or 4 months before we figured it out, and trial and errors, right? And
Yep.
so,
Yep.
and then once we got the letters to where you could not tell that it was a printer that printed out that letter, um, then we had to figure out how to insert the letter on an envelope. So
Yep.
we went and bought a Hassler envelope inserter, and we bought that, and then we just started adding more gadgets. And then my friends that were doing real estate will come to my warehouse, because we were a fix and flip Burr company at the time. So we were fixing,
Okay.
flipping, and renting, and we'll sell some, but we didn't really sell many. And they're like, "What's on that board?" And I was like, "Oh, those are all the properties we got under contract." And their eyes will just lit up, like, "Dude, you got
How do you
20
do
contract? How the hell are you doing that?"
that?
But I just didn't know what anybody else was doing, right? So because I was like kind of like a horse with the blinders on.
Yep.
I'm on my own race. I don't care what Micah is doing or what Ricardo over there is doing. Like, I could care less, you know. And they're like, "How do you get your deals?" And I was like, "We do yellow letters." "Where do you buy them from?" "Well, we produce them right there. Look at our printers," right? So we
Yeah,
show
yeah,
them
yeah, yeah.
all the printers and all this stuff. And we had a guy put them inside, right? Um, and they're like, "Can you sell me some?" And we were like, "I guess, yeah. Like, how many do you
Sure.
want?" So that's look. We I think locally we're probably printing for other people easily 50 to 100,000 mailers a month,
That's
which
a good,
it
good
doesn't
amount
make
of volume.
you rich, but it's a good volume
Yep.
in between friends, you know. And we were pricing them lower than the other companies that were online. That way, you know, they will get a break. And but what they really liked was that we put a letter today, man. Their phone is ringing in 2 days.
Yep.
So that's what I did for a very long time.
I didn't
And
know that about you. That's crazy.
oh,
Cool.
dude, I was sending in 2017 an average of 80,000 letters a month.
Mm. On
And
you personally for your volume?
yeah,
For
for our own
yeah,
stuff, right? We didn't know how to wholesale, Micah. Like, I mean, we knew how to wholesale, but we didn't see it as a, that was not our goal. Our goal was to buy as many as we could because we had a lot of private money sitting, you know, in our hands, basically.
yep.
And so I think in 2017 in August, we were flipping 47 houses at a time. So we had a whole general contracting company. We own our dumpsters. I mean, this thing was completely fully integrated, but it all started with those yellow letters.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then the data, we will get the data from, man, I forgot that company. But it's the one where everybody will go pay 2 3 cents for the data, you know, online, and just download a list, no numbers,
List
just
list source. Is
list
it list
source,
source?
list source.
Yeah.
That's right. Like, it's been
Yeah.
so long, right? List source. So we'll just download the list source data and hit them, right?
Yep.
And then in 2018, I was going through a downfall, and I was trying to figure out how to cut costs and be more effective at marketing. And then I started seeing all these guys doing skip tracing. And I'm like, "What the hell is skip tracing?" Like, well, you
Right.
get the
Right.
phone number and you call them. And I'm like, "But I don't want to call them. I like them when they call me as opposed to me calling them." So that's when we started texting, and it was the wild, wild west, dude, of texting. We built a texting platform from scratch with a guy that was actually in family with me for a while. He was my business partner on that texting platform, and I was sending a ridiculous amount of text messages a day. And I remember, if I send 5,000 text messages, I will get one contract. So I was on a race to send as many text messages
That's
as I could
crazy.
to get a contract, right? And now at this time, I'm wholesaling now, and now we're doing it nationwide. Um, and then we were buying from like IDI, and we had a contract where we had to buy X amount of records a month, and because everything we did was big. Like, we didn't dabble into things. Like we were like, we're gonna buy data. Okay, I want 1,000,000 records. Like like stuff like that, right? Because we wanted to scale. Today, I don't operate the same way,
Yep.
and there is a reason why. I'm not trying to conquer the world anymore. That's number one. you know, I know the stress of doing 40, 50, 60 deals a month and the amount of people you need for that and the babysitting that it takes
Yep.
and how much it hurts when you don't collect that money because contracts fall off, people cancel, whatever, people try to sneak away from you. So I stopped literally in 2023 altogether. And I only
Got it.
focused on my call center, right? And now we're kind of like getting back in it, but it's like I'm not trying to do too many deals. I just want to do 4 or 5 deals, if that, and be fine with that, right? Now,
Yep.
let's talk about you. So you bought this company because I mean, by the way, congratulations on the way you did it. You got the money from somebody else, literally a grant, to go buy a company that serves your real estate purpose. And now you're helping many other people get quality leads because, in my opinion, the inheritance list is the best lead that exists out there. Like, I cannot think of a more motivated person than the one that inherits a property. And the reason why is because I don't know, you probably know these stats better than I do, because you're in that particular businesses. I'm more of a user of the
Yep.
data, right? What do you think is the percentage of the people that inherit a property that wants to keep on the property?
50%. 50%. So on our list, like our stat, and like I don't know of anyone else who's going as deep as we are, but if someone makes it onto our list, there's a 50% chance that they're going to transfer title within 2 years.
Okay.
So like one of every 2 conversations you're having is someone who's going to sell. It's just, can you figure out how to solve their problems? Can you stay in touch with them long enough to for them to be like, oh yeah, no, this is the guy. Ricardo's the guy. He's called me 15 times. I'm finally ready to sell. I'm going with that guy. But yeah, 50%.
I would have thought it was bigger, but 50% is pretty good.
Absolutely.
And the reason why I say this is because when I was doing all those mailers, that was the list I was hitting.
Mm-hmm.
It was the probate list, right? So because there was not, I don't think it was an inheritance list at the time. It was more like a probate. And I forgot what company we were using for that particular list because not every company provides every list, right? So I would go get the probate list, which, by the way, these are already in the process of transferring title or whatnot. But every time we go talk to somebody that inherits a property, their answer is, I want nothing to do with it. I
Yep.
just want the money. Or that house is a cancer and I don't want that cancer. Can you, like, how much are you going to give me for it? Or many times, if the house had a mortgage on it, I remember this one lady, dude, just take it off my hands. I don't want it.
Right.
And I'm looking at it, I'm like, I'm getting a free house. Like, this is the like, in our world of real estate, you tell sometimes people that you get free properties and they look at you with disbelief because they're like, how are you going to get a free property? Are you crazy? What People value things different ways. For that particular lady that says, take it off my hands, for her, it was more important, her sanity, mindset wise, than taking care of that property.
Absolutely.
How many of those do you run into with that particular list, the inheritance list?
I mean, it's all over the board. But I think what you're driving at, and I want to just make sure people understand, is like oftentimes finances aren't the biggest components
Yes.
because the house oftentimes it's paid off or there's a bunch of equity there, right? They've lived there for a long time. It's old, it's outdated, and they're dealing with 2 way bigger problems in their head at the time. The first is emotions, right? They just lost something that's irreplaceable, be it a dad, be it a cousin, be it a spouse, whatever it is. So like, they can never get that person back. And then the second is they're dealing with logistics that they maybe only in their life have to deal with, 4 times at the most, 5 times. And so they're dealing with lawyers. They're trying to figure out how to settle all the things. They're figuring out how this person lived their life. What assets did they have? I don't even know. I literally just had a conversation with a lady yesterday. She's like, I just learned that I had 3 trusts that I didn't even know about last week. Like, we're trying to go through probate. My parents never told me anything. I stayed out of their business, and that was, it seemed like the right thing to do, but I don't even know what they have. So now I'm on a mission today. And this is what I was doing right before I got on the call. Is like, what other things does this person own? She's like, I just want to get rid of them as soon as possible. It's like, I'll be fair. It's fine. If you can figure out, those assets, I'll sell them to you at a very reasonable price. I care about my sanity more than I care about the profit. And so very much, what you're saying is true. It's like, if you get the right person at the right time, and they're just done with it, right? They're pulling their hair. They've got emotions. They've got logistics. They're like, I just want to be done. But you still have to market. You still have to stay in front of them. Like, that's the hardest thing that people don't realize. Is like, they'll do a little bit of marketing to get to this person, and then they'll think, oh, they're not that interested.
They're not motivated, or they don't want to sell now.
Exactly. And people will even tell me that, but you have to recognize that for people on this list specifically, they could tell you today and be truthful in saying that, I don't think we're going to sell. And then something could happen tomorrow, and they go from not interested to being the best seller that you could ever hope for. And they would be telling the truth tomorrow too. And so people change. You just have to stay in front of them with good marketing.
The best, I think that, and as you were talking and describing the situation that you were just dealing with, the biggest profits that I've made came from a list, either an inherited list or a probate. And these are almost, some of them 6 figures on a wholesale deal. Not even, I'm not talking about the ones I fixed and kept or sold or whatever later on. And I can talk about, there was one where there were 26 heirs. 25 of them wanted to sell. There was that one.
Yeah.
And that one is crazy because the one wasn't even blood related. It was the wife of one of the people that inherited.
Oh, wow.
And her whole deal, and I remember this, they were each getting like, there was a guy that was getting the majority of the pie. He owned like 50% of the pie. So he was getting a big chunk. But the rest of the heirs were getting like $5,000 each, and I forgot how much we were buying this property for. It was probably like 180 grand or something like that. And so one of the heirs came to me. He knew I was in the real estate business, and he's like, "Man, I got this problem, dude. We want to sell. Like, they had it listed on the market, and they got offers, but the wife wouldn't. The wife of that guy wouldn't sign off on it. So the deal, title companies are not in the business of solving that particular challenge. They're in the business of making sure everything is clear, so both parties are happy, right?" And I said, "Well, his name is Roland." I said, "Roland, he served with me in the Navy," and I said, "Roland, I think I can fix that problem, but it's just gonna take some time." And he said, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Look, let's do this. Let's do a family meeting with everyone that wants to sell. Let's make sure they all sign my purchase agreement." And I ran the numbers, and when I ran the numbers, I gave them an offer that was fair. It's like, hey, this is what the property's worth, and this is what it could be worth if I fix it. They knew I was a fix and flipper, so for them, it's not rocket science. Okay, this guy is gonna go make a profit on this.
Yep.
And then I said, all right, so we got everybody on board, but the wife. And then I go to the wife and I said, look, we're trying to do this deal for the family, that family. And she's like, I don't want him to get a dime, like her ex-husband.
Oh.
And I was like, that's it? You just don't want him to get paid? And she's like, yep, I want his portion of the deal. Fair enough. So I went, I talked to the guy. I was like, look, bro, we're going to put here, you're going to make 0. And I'm going to give your portion to her. And he's like, why? Because I'm just going to pay you off the table, bro. I don't care if you pay me off the table.
Right. Doesn't matter to him.
Took 2 years to do that. 2 years. And guess what? When they closed, everybody was happy. I was getting text messages from everybody like I was some sort of a god. And all I did was figured out a way to work the problem around. She got paid. The guy
Yep.
got paid. I just told the guy, I said, bro, keep your ego down. Just keep your money in your pockets. You don't have to tell that girl that you got paid. And then I told the girl, you're getting all the money in the world that he deserves. So they both won at the end of the day, right?
Yep. It's win-win.
There was another one that we put in their contract. And in Texas, you can do probate, but basically an affidavit of heirship. So
Yep.
I'm supposed to go to probate, right? So I tell the ladies, I was like, look, why don't we just fill out this paperwork? You could be collecting your check in the next 3 weeks. And the one that was running the show, because there was 3 sisters, there was one running the show. She's like, nope, we're going through probate. And here I am, like, oh my God, now, who knows how long this is going to take, right?
Yep.
There was one of the sisters living in the property. This poor girl, man, she had no money to her name whatsoever. Water was cut off, power was cut off, and she
Man.
had these barrels collecting rainwater so she could shower and flush the toilets. And so I
Crazy.
go, like, how can you live like this? Like, and she's like, well, my sisters don't care about me, blah blah blah. Anyhow, we're waiting for probate, and a year goes by, and we're still calling we're still calling them, and they're answering, and they're like, oh, we're still waiting. 2 years later, I'm in the neighborhood buying another property, and I tell Dennis, I said, Dennis, I wonder what happened to those girls that were collecting rainwater, and they probably sold the house from underneath. Like, we thought all kinds of things. And we drove by, and sure enough, her truck is right there, parked in front of the house. And I'm like, dude, I can't believe this girl still lives here the way she lives. And then it's just like, yeah, she's got to be, there's got to be something major happening in her head to where she hasn't moved out because no power,
Right.
rainwater.
Awful way to live.
But that's where the law of attraction, that's where I believe it works. It comes in. The very next day, Mike, I get a call from the older sister saying, probate is done, when do we close? And Dennis and I
Wow.
looked at each other like, dude, we just went to the house yesterday. We didn't even call them. We just saw their truck in there, right? Well, guess where that
That's,
list came from? Same list that you provide, right?
yeah.
And I think we made on that deal, we probably made 40,000. And we, the original buyer that we had lined up, he's like, yeah, I'm still good to pull the trigger. The numbers still work. Let's do it. Boom, got it sold, right? So like that, we had, I think, the list that U.S. lit list when it comes to inheritance and probate. You provide both, correct?
We don't do probate. We don't go to the courthouse and grab probates. So we're building
Okay,
it all ahead of time.
so pre-probate,
Pre-probate. Correct.
which is the best one, by the way. I think that's the list that has provided, in my case, more fulfilling and more profits than any other list, other than maybe pre-foreclosures. Sometimes you're helping families on pre-foreclosures that,
Yeah,
you
they
know,
need it. Yeah. They're in a place they can't get out of.
and
Yeah.
sometimes they're both.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I've dealt
Yes.
with that just recently. I think I would agree. In general, my best deals, because I do other marketing, I do PPC, we do cold calling other lists, and I mail other lists too. But in general, my last year I didn't close actually, I wholesaled. It was a development deal, and I made $250,000 from one
Wow.
deal. This guy inherited his sister's property, his house was next to it, and we got it rezoned for multifamily. It was in this ridiculously nice neighborhood, and we got the soft approval for changing zoning to multifamily, and then sold it to a developer and walked with $250,000. It's
Wow.
crazy. Like biggest deals that I've ever done have all come from the inheritance list. It's not, they don't crack off like every single day.
No, and they're not fast either. Like, maybe you
No.
might get a fast one, but I mean, like, oh, look at all the deals that I just talked to you about. Those things took forever. They
Yep.
sometimes more than a year, right? But now, let's say I'm a brand new investor, or maybe I'm an experienced investor, and I want to add the inheritance list to my pipeline. How do I do that with US Lit List?
Best way to go. So like we have a cap on how much we'll sell. So any county in the U.S. we sell 3 times. That's it. So there's a wait list for some counties. So if we just don't sell it willy nilly, you can get on the wait list and then we let you know when it becomes available. But if it's available, just go on the website, fill out the form. It'll ask you. You can go on. There's a map on there. Click on the counties you're interested in, submit the form, make an account, and then either schedule a call or just call our 1-800 number. My sister will answer. Her name's Hava, and she'll talk you through how it works, what it looks like, and you can buy then and go from there. And then kind of post, after you purchase, I do a weekly training with all of our clients. They can just basically hop on. I explain what the list is, how we work it, how you hyper target the better, kind of like what we've been talking about this whole time. Not every lead is the same. Not every lead is as good as the next lead. And so it's like, how do you see that? And I found a few specific subsets that are way, way better, that have made me way more money than any other inheritance lead. And so I kind of go through that and tell people how to look for that, find it, marrying it to, let's say, tax delinquency. If you can snipe off a tax delinquent property that should go through probate before it gets to that tax deed sale or the tax lien sale, and you find someone money, that's a good proposition. Anytime you find someone money that they rightfully own and you can kind of run them through the process, you can find some amazing deals doing that. So, it's little things like this that you come in, learn how to do it, implement, and just do good marketing from there. But yeah, that's how you integrate.
How much is usually the cost of a list or a county? I have no idea because I pull data in a different way. But with
Yep.
your system, like, what does that normally run for?
So we charge by the record. So it's $1.50 a record on subscription. And the thing is, like, no county is the same. Every month is different in each county. So and that's why we charge per record. So, like in my area, Dane County, it's maybe like a metro area. It's like 800,000 people. Average list size is 100 to 130. So it's not a giant list. It's a relatively small list. It's very
small.
targeted. So you're targeting these people, and you know that your ROI is going to be higher because half of them are going to sell eventually. So use that smaller list to market to them more, stay in front of them, make connection, build rapport, and close the deals. It's not kind of like you mentioned, it's not always quick. Like I'll have deals that close quick. I had a guy, he was in pre-foreclosure, and his wife passed away, and he's just like, I don't want the property. I don't care. He thought he was fucking the man, pardon my French, by letting it go to the bank. And I was like, right. Bro, that doesn't make any sense. You're going to lose all your equity. You're ruining your credit. Like, just let me buy it. We can close in 30 days. And, you can walk away and be done with this thing. And so that's what we did. And we wholesaled it actually to our contractor, that one, and made a quick 50 grand. But it's a slower long-term play. You're filling your pipeline for stuff where you call, checking on this person. Like, I just had a client. He's like, yeah, your list makes me more money than any other marketing source. I was like, okay, tell me what you do. He's like, I mail every 3 weeks until they stop asking me to contact them, or I get a call. I was like, okay, well, like, what does that look like? Well, your last contract, how many letters did you send? Or it wasn't a letter, it was postcards. 24 postcards was his last contract that he got. He's like, I made 100 grand on that deal. He's like,
his cost per contract is nothing. I mean, because
comparatively,
the record and the postcard, honestly, for that amount of postcards and records, is really nothing.
Yeah, wow. compared to the profit margin. And that's one factor that, like, yeah, it's like, it's easy to say, like, hey, I do 75 deals a year, but my net profit to me after all that, after I pay all my people, I do all the things, I'm making 5-10 grand a contract. I mean, why not do less and make more?
Or
That's like, I probably do 30 deals a year. And, last year we were pretty close to 7.
that's good. Now, um, what kind of message do you have for our audience, Micah, that are looking to add more deals to the pipeline? What happened, dude? What happened to you? I can't hear you. Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
How about now?
Oh yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. Someone called me, even
It's
though
all good, man. We were almost done. I was gonna ask you if you had a final message for the audience, and how can people get a hold of you?
um, yeah, I think that kind of like what you're saying, like your evolution of like what you've done to market to people and how that's changed over the years. I think one of the biggest factors, and this will continue going forward, is like how do you handle your leads when they come in, and specifically with this list. What I would say is that, you know, you're better off, putting your desires aside first, and really positioning yourself to help that person. So that could mean whatever, giving them your contractor's name. That could be listening to them and how hard their circumstance is. But putting yourself in an active listening position, you're going to get all of the information that you need to solve their problems, and then you craft a deal around that. And if you can do that, not only on this list, but in any of your other marketings, I firmly believe that you're going to do more deals because of it. Because it's that trust recession, that's real. Everyone feels it right now. The marketing is crazy. I still get tons of text messages. Everyone's getting text messages. How do you connect as a like from human to human experience? How do you leverage that? Because the people who you end up helping the most, usually in turn feel in some way, shape, or form connected to you because of how you went out of your way to do good by them. And like that's just the kind of business that I want to do. And I think that's the customer, the mindset that this list works best for.
All right. How can people get a hold of you, Micah?
Facebook's a good channel. Just type in my name, Micah Nicholes, on Facebook. I'm there a decent amount. Otherwise, email is good too. Micah, just how it's spelled on the bottom there, MICAH @usleadlist.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today, brother, and sharing your experience and your journey in life, not only in life, but in real estate. With that being said, guys, don't forget to hit share, like, and subscribe Send this video to whoever you think needs more a new way of producing leads. Micah can help you, or can put you on the waiting list if your account is not around, or not available for getting a pre-probate list, which is probably the best lead that you'll ever get. And with that being said, we'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate you, brother.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.